We have a shocking New York Knicks injury update as Karl-Anthony Towns' timeline may have just been revealed to return from his hand injury. And also, he has a second injury on top of it that was not disclosed until today. And now Tom Thibodeau is going to have to figure out a pathway using mainly Precious Achiuwa while Mitchell Robinson is also injured to hold down the New York Knicks fort until Towns can come back. And we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. So if you guys like the videos, make sure to subscribe. It helps me out a ton. 28% of viewers are subscribed. Let's get those numbers up, but let's jump into the video. That's way more important than talking about this. Karl-Anthony Towns has more than one injury, guys. And I'm not talking about, oh, he's got the bone chip and the sprain. No, that's not what I mean. There's another injury. That's not his hand. That was not disclosed, and now we know about it. And, well, it's worrisome. It's not a bad injury, but it's worrisome. And I'm not going to hold you guys on the line like this. As mentioned by Stefan Bondy, Towns, who's listed as questionable for Friday night's game against the Timberwolves, is grappling with intermittent knee soreness and a thumb injury on his shooting hand. As the Post reported, tests on Towns' thumb uncovered a bone chip along with a sprain. Surgery is deemed unnecessary, and the plan is to return once the swelling subsides. However, we now know that Karl-Anthony Towns is also dealing with knee soreness. Now, we've heard a bit about this tendinopathy. That's a tough word in my defense. But now we know that Karl-Anthony Towns is not just dealing with a hand injury that has a bone chip and a sprain. He's also dealing with an injury to his knee. He's dealing with intermittent knee soreness, which is a fancy word for Towns is playing a lot of minutes, and now his knee hurts. Well, who is that because of? Tom Thibodeau, mainly. He's playing Towns a ton of minutes. Given, in fairness to Tibbs, Towns is only playing under a minute more per game than he did last season. So, obviously, his usage rate is well up from last season, and that's part of it. But it's not something to be too concerned about. However, it does mean Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be out for a longer time. Since he's dealing with both knee soreness and an injury to his thumb, I don't think we're going to see Karl-Anthony Towns for the next 2 weeks playing basketball, given he's also questionable tonight, so I could be so off, and we could be seeing Karl-Anthony Towns play basketball in 6 hours from now. And if that's the case, that's terrific. It's great to see that Karl-Anthony Towns is not that injured after all. But I do not think he's going to play against the Minnesota Timberwolves, nor do I think he should play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The New York Knicks are in January. They've played a lot of heavy minutes. If guys are dealing with injuries, they are better off taking the night off because the heavy minutes that they're forced to play. Now, part of this is Tom Thibodeau overplaying the guys, but as well as it is we're seeing Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns play a lot of minutes because they're NBA superstars, and NBA superstars always play a lot of minutes. Just because they're playing for Tibbs, it gets more publicized. The problem is that Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart lead the NBA in minutes played because there isn't anyone to back them up. It's one of the reasons why the Knicks could consider moving Deuce McBride into the starting lineup and Josh Hart off the bench. However, Josh Hart is playing so well, it's impossible to really move him to the bench with him having a career year. It just doesn't make much sense. But the Knicks are going to have to do something to get more guys off the bench who can play in Mikal or Josh or OG's role, specifically Mikal and OG's roles that they play. The Knicks could use another forward of some sort. Now, TJ Warren's an option, but the Knicks will have to wait until March or free up cap space in order to bring TJ Warren onto the team. Outside of that, there's trade options. Alec Burks is one that comes to mind. He could do that. But the New York Knicks have found themselves in a very weird spot right now where Karl-Anthony Towns is down with an injury. And with Mitchell Robinson also out, the Knicks are trying to figure out a way to get back on track with these injuries. Right now, where things stand, Precious Achiuwa is going to be the big man who plays the majority of the minutes. Now, Jericho Sims is the starter, but Precious Achiuwa plays the majority of the minutes. Now, Achiuwa had a great game against the Philadelphia 76ers, putting up 10.6 rebounds and 3 blocks. And he even said, he's like, I'm an elite defender. That's just the whole story. Everyone should know that I'm an elite defender. Achiuwa is very confident in himself, which you love to see because it's something that Jericho Sims is struggling with. So the Knicks do have a guy who's very confident in his abilities, and Precious Achiuwa has been very, very good for the New York Knicks throughout his time here for a little over a year now. And he gives the Knicks what they need. The problem is he's a little undersized. So against a team that has Rudy Gobert on it, like the Minnesota Timberwolves, it does make things difficult. The Knicks are already not a very good rebounding team, and Karl-Anthony Towns, averaging nearly 14 rebounds per game, is their best rebounder. So outside of that, it goes to Josh Hart and Precious Achiuwa, who really are going to have to hold down the fort. It is going to make things difficult, though. The Knicks don't have their two best rebounders in Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson, who's been out all year. So this puts the Knicks in an interesting spot right now. Now, there is some other news just discussing the timeline. As the New York Post talked to two different doctors, This one, Dr. Daniel Kaplan, is an orthopedic surgeon at NYU who mentioned a bone chip can be one of two things. One could be where the ligament in his thumb that he sprained attaches to the bone. That would be a bigger deal because it would mean the ligament would be unstable. That would be something that requires surgery. But since it sounds like surgery isn't necessary, that means the other type of bone chip injury where it is truly just a chip from the impact of the bone, most likely in that case, it shouldn't change the overall outlook tremendously. It probably would just lead to more swelling and maybe take a little bit longer for that to go down and for him to be ready. Now, that's the thing. We know that with Karl-Anthony Towns, who's been riding the bench just for one game waiting to come back from this injury, it's about the swelling. He had a hard cast on his hand, and he's just waiting for the swelling to go down. According to Dr. Daniel Kaplan, that means that could take a little bit longer for Karl-Anthony Towns' swelling to go down, which means he could be out a little bit longer, which means probably into next week, potentially the week after, which, again, I don't really see as the end of the world for the New York Knicks. Yes, they're going to be worse without Towns. Yes, they're going to lose more games. Karl-Anthony Towns, according to NBA.com, is fourth in MVP on the MVP ladder, and Basketball Reference has him at third. So Karl-Anthony Towns has clearly shown why he's one of the best players in the NBA this season. He's having the best season of his career, and if he's going to have to miss a little bit of time with injury, I don't really mind that because the point is to be fresh for the playoffs, and the playoffs are still a while away. If he misses a few games in January, it's not going to cause any harm. It is probably for the best to just let the swelling go down. The last thing we need is for him to consistently re-aggravate this injury or keep that knee sore. He'll get time to rest, and that's going to be huge for Towns because the Knicks need him at his very best, because when Towns is at his very best, he's basically completely unstoppable, or at least has been this season. Now, taking a look at Dr. Daniel Siegerman, he mentioned, and he's a hand surgeon specifically, he said if they're saying he doesn't need surgery or he doesn't need any more aggressive treatment, then most likely the thumb is stable, and it should heal by soft tissue within the matter of 2 to 3 weeks. If someone has good stability of their thumb without a significant ligament injury, a small bone chip is treated just like a sprain. Finger sprains can be annoying, certainly they can be painful, and they can act out. They can cause stiffness over time, but in general, you look at all comers, within a few weeks, they're all back to most activities. So it sounds like Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be back to his normal activity, playing basketball pretty soon. It kind of sounds like from both these doctors' perspectives that Towns could be out for 2 weeks or so because the Knicks are waiting for the swelling to go down. Obviously, it sucks to see that, but it also is for the best that the Knicks take these 2 to 3 weeks and really assess how they look as a team. Karl-Anthony Towns can't play 48 minutes a night, and come the playoffs, you have to understand there's a world where what if Mitchell Robinson gets hurt again? Now, I don't think he's going to. I think people are overblowing the injuries to Mitchell Robinson because he came back and got hurt again. He came back injured. That's why he had to get surgery. And also, it's not in his control that Joel Embiid is pulling down his leg, causing further injury. That's not on Mitchell Robinson, man. And he came, as I said, he came back injured to begin with. So all of this led to this, time period of Mitch being hurt. Yeah, he's had his injuries. But I also do trust, because the Knicks trust, that Mitchell Robinson can come back and be healthy. But if he's not, the Knicks need to take a deep personal inventory and decide what they need to do. Can Precious Achiuwa hold it down by himself? Is that the move that they're going to go with? And if it is, that's fine. You can go with Precious Achiuwa to try to hold it all down, but I don't think that's the greatest idea. I think they should try to way to find some insurance, and it does look like they want to trade Jericho Sims, which could be important, but they're going to be missing this guy, and that is going to be a problem. What if he gets hurt? What if he misses a game or two in the playoffs? The Knicks now get to see what they have to do, and it's a matter of can Precious hold it down. If Precious wants to play like the next Giannis and show that he's better than Bam, well then, he's going to show it right now. The Knicks are going to be without Karl-Anthony Towns for the next few weeks, or at least for the next week or so, I believe. The fact that he's questionable is a hugely great sign, but also, just to take a look at Karl-Anthony Towns and everything, he's played and missed games after being listed as questionable. So his injury status for Friday, technically defined as 50-50. It isn't much of an indicator. Perhaps it could be more relevant that he's motivated to play the Timberwolves, his former franchise, which could lead to why he's questionable tonight, so soon after the injury and after all this talk. However, the Knicks do need Towns in the long run. The man's putting up 25.5 points per game, 14 rebounds, 3 assists. His passing looks phenomenal. A block and a steal per game, shooting 55% from the field and 45% from three. The man deserves to be in the top 5 for the MVP ladder unanimously, as we've seen. And I do think that we're going to see Karl-Anthony Towns come back sooner rather than later. But if he misses a game here or there, I'm not too concerned. I think it's for the best to let the man rest. He does a lot for the New York Knicks. If he's got to miss some games because he banged his hand on a backboard and he has some knee soreness from just all the usage that he's carrying, that's fine. That happens to players. Players have knee soreness all the time. Injuries happen. I'm not concerned about Karl-Anthony Towns in the long run, though it is upsetting to see that he has multiple injuries and that we might be without Towns for the next 2 weeks. But I'm really interested to see how the Knicks fare, how Tom Thibodeau goes about this. It'll be, I don't want to say exciting to see because I'm not excited to not see Karl-Anthony Towns, but it will give some insight into where the New York Knicks are at when it comes to their big man situation outside of their MVP caliber big man. But I do want to know what you guys think, so let me know down below in the comments. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.